Hey guys, this is Adam Perry with TrueDFS, and I am going to go over tonight's hockey slate. We've got a pretty good one. It's 11 games, which is somewhat typical for a Tuesday. We don't have the short slates that we have on the Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so there's a little bit more to review, but we'll go over it pretty quickly and just go through my typical process. We've been doing different experiments each days with how to do things. I think today I'm going to go to the kind of straightforward what I do right before lock when I'm ready to build my lineups. The first thing, maybe 15 minutes before lock, I'll do this, but I do it throughout the day too, and I think we should do it on here, is just take a look at any news that came through. I did this right before I went on, and you can notice things, so-and-so is not on the trip, probably not going to be in the lineup. So Zucker is going to miss the game. I like to look like, is SaberSim before I build projecting him out? Yes. So they have that. But one thing I noticed is that if we go down to Shane Gostisbehere, he is likely not going to play today. I think, and then I heard there was some news that he could play. So I'm currently expecting him in, and we'll see what happens. SaberSim, yeah, SaberSim has him out, so it's something to keep in mind. I could be wrong about that. I had heard he was, so it's conflicting, but that's the type of thing we'll want to look at right before lock. So, and it's the type of thing we want to know when we build, because if somebody, if we're building 15 minutes before, somebody could be out, we want to know. Now I'm building, well, one of the reasons I like to build for small field and just play 1 to 3 lineups a night is I like to have a lot of control over that sort of thing. I like to know how these even strength and power play, not only how the lines work, but their time on ice and how often they're together. So I like a lot of control over that. And to know the news and stuff really matters when you're playing that way. So let's go through it pretty quick. On my process, I like to sort by value first, and the point per dollar values. Blake stands out. Tomasino stands out. None of them are over 3.0, which is usually you get 1 or 2 guys like that. So there's no great values standing out. As per usual, it's D-men, and we have a little more wingers than usual. No centers really standing out. That's pretty common. So I imagine we'll see that reflected in our builds, but we will find out. So what I'm going to do is first, because I'm building for just small field stuff and for higher stake stuff, I'm going to set the ownership projections to reflect that when I build. So I want my lineups to be built with the assumption in mind that the field is going to do the high stake stuff, as opposed to what they would do in the $15 or $20 flagship contests or any of these other buckets that you could choose from in SaberSim. So I want my lineups to be created with that in mind. So that I'm going to build 5,000 lineups. It'll make things a little bit slower, but I think it's worth it to get as much variation as possible. I'm not too concerned about salary. If there's lower price stacks that do well in the contest sims and the play-by-play sims that I'm using from SaberSim here, I want that to show up. I'm going to change the sliders a bit. I start by going for these kind of smallish field stuff, and then just boosting the variation up to 9. SaberSim changed a bit how they do the sim variance. So what it used to be is, like, if you had sim variance at 10, it would run a play-by-play sim and take the lineup that performed the absolute best and grade that as the top lineup, and that would be one of your 5,000. And then if you did it at 9, it would take a bucket of 3 play-by-play sims and average them. and then it would go up with less variance. So, 8 maybe 10 sims, and 7 maybe 20, and it would go up from there. They changed that a little bit. I'm not quite sure what the new formula is. Matt and SaberSim, he's on Discord. It's pretty complicated, but I trust them to do pretty good work. And I do want some pretty good variance here. So I'll keep the correlation somewhat high, but I am going to boost up the sim variance. Then yes, why did I go to the smaller sliders then for the 100, 1,000 man field? I don't know. I just want to start from there as my base. So that's about it before we run. The only thing is I like to play, I think correlation is really important. So I like to play highly correlated onslaught stacks, 5-man, 6-mans. I think they're especially good in the smaller field stuff. So I'm just going to tell the builder before it makes my lineups to get rid of all these 4s. I mean, there's certainly a case for playing them. There's a lot of people that prefer them. They even prefer the 3-mans. We could have that debate another time. But for purposes of building lineups here, and if this was right before lock, I'm just going to force in the 5s and the 6s and then build. You get some variation. It takes a little longer, so you get some variation in the time. Like if we left all of these in and didn't constrain the builder, it would go really fast to create us 5,000. Now it's got a little bit more searching to do. You'll even see sometimes on smaller slates, it doesn't get to the full 5,000 lineups just because it's heavily constrained by these restrictions we put on to only build us 5 and 6s. That might happen here. If I have time, I tend to rebuild, but I'm pretty happy if I get, 2,500, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 onslaught stacks to choose from. I know that I'm going to play those kinds, so I don't even bother building the others. Go back and look at any other news while it's building. This came in a minute ago. Kylington, not going on the road trip. I mean, a lot of these guys that you get news on are like 4th line guys that swing in and out of the roster anyway. And it's pretty doubtful you'll get them in lineups. But they're worth knowing about, especially if we're putting our hard-earned money in this. We want to know exactly what we're facing. Little Canucks news. Howden did make the trip. It sounds like game time decision. Let's see. Do they have Howden in? Yeah, so SaberSim currently has him in. He's a 3rd-line guy at 3,100. You're not going to get to much of him. But, if you're playing the MME stuff, that could be pretty important. You tend to get some pretty low-owned and punt-type plays when you're playing in a large field. And in the single entry, in the small field, 3-entry, we're a little less worried about news like that. But something that we still want to be aware of. What you could do, I started making a spreadsheet that just has the names of these Twitter accounts. Sheng Peng, I know the San Jose beat writer, and I have a link to his account, and this Buffalo guy, Mike Harrington. And that way you could sometimes, especially if it's right before lock, you could just look straight for the source if lines are slow to come in. I like to use game day lines throughout the day to see if there's any changes. Then right before lock, always go look at these. All right, didn't build us too many. So sometimes, if I had the time, I would rerun this and try and get more lineups. But we're pretty good with 2,800 onslaughts. So what we want to do, should have done this while it was going, is since I play the 222, 167 mans, I want to sim for it. Maybe we'll just see, like, we had an interesting case yesterday where the Saber score correlated with what was good in the sims. That doesn't always happen. So if we did this like large slate, Sabre score, really likes Nashville, Minnesota. Now, we talked about this yesterday. Sabre score, it does take an account for upside, but it tends to also give a lot of weight to projection. So Minnesota's, they get a pretty good total. See what Nashville's total is probably, 3.7, and they're always priced right. Going into San Jose, probably the biggest favorite or close to it on the slate. But, you could also kind of assume that they may be owned because of that. And so that is something to think about. We're playing smaller field stuff, but ownership still does matter. If we just wanted to see the highest projected 5 and 6 mans, you get Nashville, Carolina, Edmonton. I doubt that's playing the whole Edmonton power play. That's always tough to get in. Let's see. Yeah, no, likes throwing in Skinner there. He's got the power play too. Correlates with Ekholm. Ekholm will correlate with Bouchard. And then you get some of the power play stuff. Arvidsson on there now. I haven't played them in a while. I didn't realize Arvidsson was on power play 1. That's the type of thing. Just a little sanity check. I'll go and check, see if DFO confirms that with McDavid out. Yeah, they also expect him on there. I don't know if he was last game. So again, I haven't played him in a while, but I think it's a safe assumption. You could always go to Natural Stat Trick and see. So that's a high projected Edmonton stack. But let's see, because we want to run simulations. So let's run a contest sim. So what a contest simulation is doing is it's saying if the contest you played in, if everyone played lineups that we expect, given the ownership rates we expect for the high stakes 20 max, then these lineups you built in your 2800 would perform the best in the long run against them. So it's like in San Jose, Minnesota. We've got one onslaught of San Jose, and I imagine with the San Jose's, one of the reasons is they're cheap. They may have a low total, but they correlate nicely. Here you get all this EV1 and power play 1 correlation. You get the EV2 correlation with Toffoli and Macklin Celebrini, future rookie of the year. And then you could jam in some pretty expensive kind of blue chip, high projected stuff. Pasternak coming along with it. Six Stack is actually ranking as our top sim ROI. 103. That's a high ROI. Here you get Giroux, Arvidsson, Bouchard along with it. Correlate to the goalie. I mean, that is a lot of correlation. If we went down 10, so here, this is not something we see every day. Usually what we see is that, there's a lot of clustering in the top sim ROI lineups. And so we'll get one, the top lineup is projects to have a 60% simulated ROI if the field played that way. And then the 10th lineup is like 55. And I'll say, well, you could play any of those. But here, there's a big difference. There's a big gap when we go down 10 between the top sim ROI lineups and even the 10th. I mean, 20, we're starting to get a bigger gap. So you may not want to go that far down in your field. It's still a San Jose, but it's, for whatever reason, not grading as well. We could see if we ran these sims again. There's always variation in what happens in these models. So let's see if this still ranks in the top 10. No. You get a Minnesota. Let's see if this is the same 6 stack. Yeah, same 6 stack. Comes up second with a 96. So, I mean, this is pretty consistently a well-performing lineup. The nice thing about it is you have to wait all the way till the 9:30 slot for the late night hammer to come in, and it's always fun. It's always fun seeing everyone go ahead and then coming from behind at the end of the night. If you could stay up that late, I certainly love sweating these. So and maybe we'll do a live sweat for hockey one time. It's always tough because it's an event-based thing, but we'll try doing it. But so if I was playing, and this was right before lock, you've seen my process. I would probably take this lineup of San Jose that seems to be running the best and grading the best across several sims. Let's run it again. Seems to consistently. Let's see where this Minnesota one will come up in the top 10. They are consistently 1 and 2. So I'm playing 2 lineups. I'd probably play the Minnesota and the San Jose, and call it a slate and see what happens. I don't think you want to go too far down, just given. Let's see if we went. Yeah, I mean here we're giving up a little less. If we tried to play some other teams that come up in our top 20. There is no. So if we went to the next team in the top 20, we'd get to Boston. Okay, so Boston, the 22nd lineup, you're starting to give up 30% ROI by going down to Boston. I would probably be hesitant to do it. But with my 2 lineups, I've got a Minnesota, I've got a San Jose, and I'd upload them and run with it. And that's how I go through my process right before lock. If you have any questions, you could ask in Discord. Please feel free to join us. We'd love to get questions. And there's some great packages that take Sheets' projections, Goldie's projections, and let you use them with the SaberSim stuff that I'm using. I use them all the time, especially for the sports I know less about, like basketball. I just upload them, use them in SaberSim, works great. And so highly recommend it. There's some great packages on the site. They're about the same price as if you signed up for SaberSim on its own. So on top of that, though, you get the Discord, you get Goldie's projections, you get Sheets projections. And so there's a lot of added value. So we highly recommend it. Come in and join us. Feel free to ask any questions. And good luck on tonight's slate.